for some real self-care. I'm Cora Naylor, certified coactive coach and emotion code practitioner. As a coach for empty nesters, I'm often helping women to discover the best ways to look after themselves. They've taken care of others for many years and find it challenging to put themselves first. Often when people hear of self-care, they think of the physical things or the indulgent things, but there's other things to consider. And that's why we'll be talking to Mary Brown today. Mary is a life coach and founder of Intentional Life Coaching. She specializes in helping women set boundaries from a place of love and practice self-care. For over a decade, she served hundreds of families impacted by mental health, addiction, and abuse as a social worker and social work manager. She realized her calling to help women in difficult relationship with a struggling person learn to show up with love for themselves and for their loved one. Mary coaches women to build confidence, say no from a place of love, and use self-care to connect themselves to others and the world around them. So let me bring on Mary. Hey, she's coming. Here she comes. Hey, Mary, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Good. So happy to have you on the show today. I know, especially with the way things are right now, self-care is even more important than normal. So we're looking forward to hearing some good tips from you that maybe a different way than what people might normally think of for self-care.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Great. So what have you got to share with us today? What are some real self-care tips for us?
Yes, so real self-care, when I talk about real self-care, usually what I'm referring to is things that you can do to take care of yourself that build connection. So I teach that self-care is about connecting to yourself, connecting to others, and connecting to the world around you. And we can get into some examples of how to do
Yeah,
that. If yeah,
yeah, let's do it.
awesome. So the first thing, connecting to yourself. So these would be things that you do to connect to your body, to your thoughts, to your feelings, and to your creativity. So some examples could be things like nutrition and exercise. It could be journaling. It could be a gratitude practice. It could be creating something like crafting or music. It could be journaling, any of those kind of things that you do one on one that really just connect you to your soul, that nourish you yourself.
So for like so yourself, so with your body, that's like health and exercise, that kind of thing, and then also stuff for your mind. Is that kind of
That's
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
okay.
so moving your body, like taking care of your physical body, but also your brain, your feelings, that creative part of you.
Yeah. And that can be tricky right now, especially. And a lot of people are sort of stuck at home together and trying to
Mhm.
find maybe your own time within the family to, have some downtime and look after yourself. Do you have any kind of tips for doing that? Because I know you've got a busy household at your place.
I sure do. Yes. So I think that the first thing is making a commitment to yourself that you will put some time on your calendar and just start where you're at. I mean, one of the guiding principles of self care is to treat yourself with kindness and compassion. Right. So if you're currently not spending any time on self care, it's probably not realistic to, be able to commit to something like 2 hours a day. Right. So maybe if it's just 15 minutes, maybe 15 minutes in the morning, you want to journal or meditate, or 15 minutes in the morning, you want to go for a brisk walk by yourself. Something like that, just starting with where you're at. 15 minutes is better than 0 minutes. And
Mhm.
so just meet yourself where you're at and do it from a place of love. The key is to do it because you love yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And even if you
Mhm.
don't have that, I mean, even just a couple minutes, I know there's some ways to say meditate, even just sitting outside and looking at a tree or looking in your backyard. If you don't have that time, or say if you have little kids at home, it might be different. I mean, empty nesters, we often have the house to ourselves, so we don't have any excuses. But if
Sure.
you're in a house full, especially right now, things could be different, right? Yeah.
Sure.
tip.
Yeah, and there's some guided meditations that you can do for just a couple minutes at a time. I like to use the Calm app and the Insight Timer. Those are ones that you can choose how many minutes you're able to commit to.
Yeah, there's so many apps, hey, for
Yep,
everything, for meditating, for exercising, and so many people are doing. There's tons of free resources out there to do just about anything you can imagine from home right now. So that's awesome. So that's
absolutely.
the first tip, then, right?
Yes.
Self care.
It's
Yeah.
connecting to yourself, and then the second, category is connecting to loved ones, and so I just encourage people to, be intentional about choosing people that really encourage you to be your best self, and to have a handful of people that you have regular connection with, so that could be your immediate family, it could be, extended family, it could be friends, neighbors, coworkers, it could be a mentor or a leader that you look up to. But I just really encourage people to be intentional about maintaining a connection with someone that you love every day, um, and that those things will nourish your soul as well.
Yeah. And do you
Mhm.
have any other suggestions? I know a lot of people these days have been
Mhm.
having different kinds of Zoom parties to try and stay
Mhm.
connected. I did one in our RV community a couple weeks ago. We had happy hour on Zoom and we had about
Mhm.
20 people, and most of them had never been online before. So it was a bit of a gong show, but it was a lot of fun.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think, right now, of course, because we're kind of social distancing and, in the middle of this pandemic, then we have to be a little bit more creative about how we connect with the people that we love. Some things that we do, I have a group chat with my sisters, we're close, and I have a group chat with my sisters, and so we stay in communication pretty regularly through, that text message chat. I have set up during this time of quarantine, we've set up where we're doing a Zoom call with our extended family, once a week at a set time, and whoever's available just kinda comes on, and we check in with each other and spend some time together online, and that's been great. I have some connection rituals with the people that I do live with, kind of first thing in the morning, last thing at night, making sure I'm having just a couple minutes to check in with each of the people that, are in my home, and that feels really good to me.
Yeah, it's super nice if you have some family and stuff at home. At least you can get some hugs in that way. It's hard to get the hugs
Mhm.
in virtually. Just
For
not the
sure.
same.
For sure. We'll get
Yeah,
there, we'll get there.
yeah,
This can't
yeah,
last forever.
yeah. Hopefully, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, so that's two tips. What's our
Yeah.
third?
The third one is to connect with the world around you. So this is to help you understand that you are belong to something that's bigger than yourself. So for some people, they may have some spiritual practices or beliefs that guide this part of self-care. So if you believe in deity, then this might be prayer or scripture study for you. If you like to go outside with nature. Where I live in Colorado, a lot of people are really connected to the outdoors and they find this sense of belonging and connecting to the world around them through being outside in nature. So that's one way we can do it. It could also be a group of people that you feel passionate about their cause. So you could find a volunteer or a nonprofit group that you really, feel like you belong to that purpose and connect with them. It could be through community service, but just something that kind of reminds you that you're part of something bigger than yourself and that you can connect to the world, the bigger world around you.
And I think there are possibilities even doing that right now if that's
Absolutely.
something you want to do. There's many things, especially a lot of people are helping out sewing masks and helping with the homeless. There's so many possibilities that you can do out there for sure. Um,
Mhm. And
yeah,
I always encourage people to start small, just start where you're at, right? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Definitely don't need to compare yourself to other people, but spending a few minutes outside might kind of help you remember that you belong to something bigger, or a few minutes in prayer meditation, or just a smile, a kind word to someone. those kinds, small acts of service go a long way.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody needs everything right now. It's really, really important to really look after ourselves.
Right, right. Yeah, and I usually encourage people to have a daily practice of self-care that includes something that's connecting to yourself, something that's connecting to a loved one, and something that's connected to the world around you each day, if possible. Like I said, start small. And then when things are really stressful, like this is a stressful time for all of us, that it's time to double down on that self care, that's how we're going to endure stressful times.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, for sure. Like you say, it's easy. I think a lot of us, we go in waves right now where you have a few days that are good, and then you have a couple of days where you can kind of really, like, I know I do, kind of get down, even though I'm a positive person, but you still have those moments where, like for me, I work from home. So during the week it hasn't been too difficult, but when it gets to the weekend and now I can't kind of do the things I would normally do, it gets
Mhm.
frustrating. So
For sure.
it's
I've gotten that kinda cooped up feeling too.
yeah, yeah, and you're just like,
Mhm.
"Man, I don't like not being able to do the things I normally do." And what is the new normal gonna be?
Right, right. And I think that, this week I had a similar experience where I was feeling pretty good most of the days and then kind of got a little bit antsy and feeling cooped up towards the end of last week on Friday. And part of self-care is giving yourself permission. I had to give myself permission. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to, um, you know, not be as patient with the people that you live with sometimes when I've been in this house for, 6 weeks straight with them, and, that I had to give myself permission just to take a time out, to allow myself to feel whatever it was that I was feeling, and, just to honor that it's okay to have some negative emotion, and it's okay to have some stress, and that things we'll get through this too.
Yeah, and I think that is a big part of it is the emotions because we don't really necessarily think it's okay to have emotions like that. So give yourself some time, and I like to tell people or my clients to give yourself a time limit and say, okay, I'm going to take an hour or two or whatever you need, half a day, but then I'm going to move on and feel those emotions that you're going through so that you can then move on from them
Yeah.
rather than just trying to tramp them down all the time and not dealing with it.
Yes, I agree, totally agree. And, sometimes I'll say, "Okay, Mary, you're feeling disappointed because you had this expectation and it didn't happen the way that you thought it would, and you just set an appointment with yourself. You're gonna feel disappointed from 8 to 9 p.m. tonight, and just put a container around it." It's that kind of self boundaries, that help us to kinda move through some of those difficult emotions.
Yeah, and things are gonna be different even when things start changing now. It whatever the new normal is gonna be different than our old normal, I think. So it's good
Mhm.
practice to get into that now.
Right, right.
Yeah, and
And reminding ourselves, right? Like every morning in this month, I've gotten up and I've said, okay, this is a time for me to connect to myself, to the world around me, and to the people I love. That's what I'm going to do today.
yeah. And if
Mhm,
be grateful because most of us do have a lot to be grateful for, that
mhm.
we're at least, yes, as much as we're confined at home, but we're in our homes and we have food to eat. Like we don't
Mhm.
really have a lot that we can complain about. We just don't have control over what we can do.
Yes, and
So
gratitude practices are awesome. So if that's one way to connect to yourself and the world around you for sure, is to have
yeah.
a gratitude practice. This morning in my gratitude journal, I was writing things that I normally wouldn't have in there, right? So this morning I wrote down, I'm grateful for a washer and dryer. I'm grateful for running water. I'm grateful for refrigeration. I'm grateful for temperature control in my home, all of those kinds of things that, usually don't make it onto my list. But since I'm home and kind of focusing on some of those things, it's been a really good way to improve my gratitude practice.
I think, yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things we can do right now is to start, if you're not
Mhm.
already doing that, is to start a gratitude practice of some sort, just journaling down, 5 things every day that you're grateful for that
Mhm.
maybe we took for granted before. and we
Yeah.
didn't really think of them. And now we're like, wow, that's actually pretty good. You know, people are complaining that it's hard to buy toilet paper, but wow, it sure is great when you have some, you know.
For sure.
It is there some days. It's just hit and miss, right? Yeah, and
Yes.
getting out to nature, I think, is huge right now. Like getting out of the house in some manner, if you can, and getting that fresh air and just
Mhm.
connecting with the outdoors a little bit, I think is huge.
Absolutely. Our weather here has been kind of cold and then hot and cold and hot, and it's just starting to warm up, and I'm so grateful I got to go eat lunch outside yesterday, and it was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have any other tips maybe around handling the stress and struggles that are going on right now, just as we're down to our last few minutes?
Yeah, I think that just being intentional about your self-care and to remember kind of some of the purposes of self-care and, so some of my beliefs that guide, my work are I really believe that we as people are born valuable, that we don't have to earn our worth, that it is okay to have a human experience, it's okay to experience positive emotions, and it's also okay to experience negative emotions, to give yourself permission to, be a human living on earth right now. Also, I really believe that self care will help us to become our best selves. It'll also help us to navigate, our experience here. And that, when things are stressful, just to be kind to yourself, to treat yourself as you would a friend, talk to yourself like you were a friend. And if you had a friend who was, i- in your shoes, how you would treat them is how I encourage you to try to treat yourself.
Yeah, especially right now. I think expectations, you know, the expect don't have as high of expectations so that
Mhm.
you don't have to be so hard on yourself. Be a little kinder in these times, especially, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
cool. So
Yeah.
we're just on the final words. How can people get a hold of you if they want some more information from you?
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Notice they've got our websites running along the bottom, so they can see that on there.
Oh, perfect. Yep. So, my website is intentionallifecoaching.com, and feel free to email me. If you email me, my email address is Mary, my first name, Mary, at intentional life coaching. So I'll spell that intentional lifecoaching.com. And if you email me, I'd be happy to send you a worksheet about how to create a self care plan for you. I do offer five people a free coaching call each week during coronavirus pandemic. So if you'd like to spend some time one-on-one coaching, I'd be happy to offer that to you too. The best way is just going to be send me that email.
Yeah, yeah, sounds good. And if
Yeah.
anybody is an empty nester out here and you're not in my Facebook group yet, you can just comment below with a yes, and I'll get you added into my group. So take care, everybody. Look after yourselves and be kind. Have a great week. Bye bye.
Yeah.